we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, or something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. We walk the 7 steps,
Yes,
right, to the next house for coffee. We share a wall,
right.
So it's in New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this, and he says, "Do you want a tour?" We said, "Great."
Interesting.
He's got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got. Well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide, and so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he like gets like weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Really?
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Oh.
So in that video, we saw U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick lying about his associations with Jeffrey Epstein. He said that in 2005, he and his wife decided together that after meeting Epstein, they decided that they will never see him again because they think that he's gross. But here in this email, we can see the opposite, because we can see that Howard Lutnick sent to someone. It might have been Jeffrey Epstein's assistant or somebody who forwarded the messages to Jeffrey Epstein and Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick in 2012 sent to this person that, "Hi Jeff, we are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart's/Anguilla on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What is exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Marcy Lehrman, with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children." And actually, after that, in some of the files, the list of the ages of the children he's listing here has been redacted. So obviously there are mistakes in the redactions, and there should be an independent investigation or independent evaluation of the redactions, because we can immediately see that there's mistakes in the redactions. So he lists the ages of the children that he has with him to the island. He says 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. Thanks, Howard. This just by itself does not mean that these children were victims of human trafficking, but since Howard Lutnick has so brazenly lied about his ties to Epstein, and obviously they had some close ties because he was emailing him and asking him to meet, and they arranged a lunch together, that his ties should also be looked into more closely. And next we have Kash Patel in a Senate hearing saying that Jeffrey Epstein, based on the information that they have in the FBI, Jeffrey Epstein did not traffic these children to anyone but himself, and that no new investigations are needed.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
So obviously, since it's a human trafficking operation, these women and children have to come from somewhere. Here we have in one of the files information about Jeffrey Epstein making payment from his JP Morgan account that between 2003 and 2013 Epstein and or his associates used Epstein's account to make numerous payments to individual women and related companies. Among the recipients of these payments were numerous women with Eastern European surnames who were publicly and internally identified as Epstein's recruiters and or victims. For example, Epstein paid more than $600,000 to Jane Doe 1, a woman who, according to news reports contained in JP Morgan's due diligence reports, Epstein purchased at the age of 14. So even if JP Morgan's internal due diligence report states that payments were made for Epstein's recruiters and or victims and a large sum of money was paid also to purchase a girl at the age of 14, Kash Patel says that there is no reliable evidence to start any new investigations. And next up, I'm sure you have seen this email already if you have followed this release of the files. Here, somebody who is protected by the US government sent Jeffrey Epstein an email saying that thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. Jeffrey Epstein replied with great. And the name of the person sending this email has been redacted. So if somebody says to a child sex trafficker that their littlest girl was a little naughty, then I suspect that this person might have taken part in some illegal activities and the United States FBI should maybe look more into it. But then again, they already know who this person is. They just don't want you to know. And next we have the US Attorney General Pam Bondi clarifying her statements about the thousands of videos she earlier said that they have of Jeffrey Epstein with children, but in July last year she changed her statement to the videos just being downloaded by Jeffrey Epstein.
Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
So that is an interesting statement. Here we can see that a company called ETC made a contract with Jeffrey Epstein that they will be providing a surveillance camera system to the Epstein residence in Palm Beach. And here is also an email sent from Kickstarter HQ to Jeffrey Epstein where they link an instruction video for do-it-yourself pinhole camera setup. So obviously Jeffrey Epstein had a camera system in his Palm Beach residence and also practiced himself to be able to do these kinds of pinhole camera setups. So we are pretty certain that there is a lot of video evidence of who went to the residence in Palm Beach and possibly in other houses owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And next we have an email sent to a radio host in America called Edward Aragon from a possible former employee of Jeffrey Epstein at his New Mexico Zorro ranch. This email is sent in 2019 and it states, Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried in orders of Jeffrey and Madam G. So Madam G is obviously Ghislaine Maxwell. Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. So here again we have information that should probably be looked into a little bit more closely. And also the person who sent this email added links that contain video footage of Jeffrey Epstein. These videos are named Sex with Minor, Threesomes, Underage Girl Sex Video, Underage Girl Matthew Mellon video. So he's Matthew Mellon also. And then another one is named Underage Girl, Rape Fantasy Video, and also Girl from Bay Area Suicide Attempt Confession to Madam G audio. So if these videos are real and they contain Jeffrey Epstein having sex with underage girls, then this whole email might be really trustworthy. Also, the Epstein Zorro Ranch in New Mexico should be raided. And if these videos are from the Epstein house, then Pam Bondi obviously lied. And here we see a file where the FBI had this information also in the year 2019. So Edward Argonne also forwarded this information to FBI. So if the statements in this email are true, then Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell told somebody to bury these young girls at the ranch, and they are obviously then possible co-conspirators and should be investigated. Similar complaints have been made in 2020 and 2021 about the Trump golf course. In this first tip to the FBI, a woman reported that she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring operating at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes, California during the years 1995 and 1996. The madam and broker for sex parties that included minors, both male and female, was Ghislaine Maxwell. This information is being provided for domain awareness, referral to other agencies, or any action deemed appropriate. Submitted text. I was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring operating at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes, California during the years 1995 and 1996. The person who I knew was the madam and broker for sex parties that included minors, both male and female, was Ghislaine Maxwell. I witnessed and participated in sex orgies at the golf course with clients such as Jeff Epstein, Robin Leach, and Donald Trump. There were talks amongst us victims that some of the girls that went missing were in fact murdered and buried at the facility. I was personally threatened by the Trump's head of security at the course and told that if I ever talked of what went on there or who I saw, that I would end up as fertilizer for the back nine holes like the other cunts. I was not trafficked by Maxwell but by an escort service with an office in Hermosa Beach back in 1995-1996. They provided the victims for all 3 sex orgies that took part in at the golf course. And here is the other complaint made in 2021. The blank was recently interviewed by an FBI agent, however he felt triggered as a victim and did not report all the information. Blank had recordings of Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell discussing marketing strategies for high-profile sex parties at the Donald Trump golf course. However, Blank mailed the recordings to a lawyer in the Cayman Islands. Blank was part of the Sinaloa cartel and worked closely with Epstein and Maxwell. However, he was able to walk away from the cartel due to his status with Epstein and Maxwell. In the recordings, Trump stated he was aware of the underage sex parties and charged the house money of the golf course to fund the sex party. Blank witnessed Robin Leach strangle a young girl during a sex party. He claims she is buried behind the 19th hole at the Donald Trump golf course. So the 19th hole is usually used as a name for the golfers' club where they go after playing to enjoy drinks or have a meal. Blank is aware of 3 separate occasions in which girls were murdered and buried there. Blank was told if he spoke about the incident he witnessed, he would end up in the hole as well. Blank gave Maxwell the idea to put cameras in at the golf course to review the cartel members and understand how to market the 12 to 14-year-old victims to the cartel. An important note to make here is that the other complaint was made in 2021 and the US presidential election where Joe Biden was running against Donald Trump was in 2020. So at least the second complaint cannot be explained by the presidential race and somebody trying to ruin Trump's chances of becoming a president. Lastly, after learning all of this, let's watch Donald Trump say that let's move on as a country and nothing worrying came out about him. And after that I'll show you a clip of Todd Blanche saying that there was no relevant information to prosecute anybody in these files. And Dodd Blanche was the one who interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, and after that interview, Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a lower security prison.
Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
Is the Department of Justice considering bringing any additional charges here?
Well, look, I can't talk about any investigations, but I will say the following, which is that in July, the Department of Justice said that we had reviewed the files, the quote, Epstein Files, and there was nothing in there that allowed us to prosecute anybody. We then released over 3.5 million pieces of paper, which the entire world can look at now and see if we got it wrong.